And here we go. This is the structure of the water masses, different types of waters that you find in the three oceans, in the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, and the Indian Ocean. And what you imagine is that you have a layered cake and you cut through the Atlantic Ocean, okay, and then you get a cake which is shown here, okay, and at the top, and then you can identify different layers in your cake, okay. For example, you find something which we will talk about that again in the next lecture, but something which is the bottom water is actually formed in Antarctic regions, and that's why it's called AABW, Antarctic bottom water. And you can actually see in these sketches here, you can see the link to the surface. Okay, you can see the link to the surface here. Don't get confused with the North Atlantic deep water, which is next to it. Okay, the Antarctic bottom water is actually formed near the surface and moves down. And so the North Atlantic deep water that you can see here is actually subject to upwelling. So it's formed in the North Atlantic and then it's brought to the surface in the Southern Ocean. Again, we will talk about that, discuss this particular feature in more detail. And the orange stuff is just the central water that we discussed there. And you have Antarctic intermediate water and Arctic intermediate water. And you get an idea of the regions where it is formed is near the surface, and then it's pumped into the ocean interior. This is a subduction, and we talk about it. And then you have all the naming convention. The good thing about all of this is the changes are very, very slow, so you don't need to repeat this every year. The time scale is several hundred years, so you have very, very slow changes. So if you can identify an influence, there's, for example, water coming from the Mediterranean Sea, okay, from the Eurafrican Mediterranean Sea and ending up in this depth here, okay, it's this one also can be identified. Okay, now how can you identify water? Is through their temperature and salinity values. Okay, we also come to that later on. Pacific Ocean has a pretty much similar structure here. Indian Ocean looks a little bit different because you actually don't have much of a northern part, okay, because of the continents, and you can see some details here. But anyway, so this is a general introduction to the general temperature salinity structure of the ocean. Let's have another look at, or a more close look at this.